Welcome to Fractured Chaos.
Before you judge me, understand this. Not everything toxic is accidental. Sometimes the chaos is meticulously planned, like a game of emotional chess where every piece has its purpose. Sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones lighting the match while smiling in your face, holding the fire extinguisher behind their back, just in case. And yeah, I'm sleeping with my wife's sister. But here's the twist. My wife, Leah, she doesn't just know. She gave me permission with all the casual nonchalance of someone offering the last stale donut in the break room. At first, I thought it was a test. Turns out, it was a trap. But I didn't care, because I liked it. I liked it the way you like scratching a mosquito bite, even though you know it'll only make things worse. It started with a bottle of wine. No, scratch that. 3 bottles of wine, 3 chairs, and way too much eye contact. The kind of eye contact that should come with a warning label. Caution, may cause spontaneous combustion of perfectly adequate marriages. Leah, her sister Sasha, and me, the holy trinity of terrible decisions. Sasha wore this green silk dress that clung to her like she owed it money. It was the kind of dress that doesn't just enter a room, it colonizes it, plants a flag, and declares sovereignty. She was barefoot in our kitchen, drinking my whiskey. The good stuff I hide behind the cleaning supplies because Leah thinks I don't know she knows where it is, and calling me Kevy like we'd been lovers in a past life. Maybe ancient Rome. I'd probably have been some mediocre senator getting manipulated by multiple women there too. Leah? She just watched, smiling. No jealousy, no tension, just curiosity. The kind of curiosity that killed not just the cat, but the entire feline family and made a fashionable hat out of their fur. I caught Leah staring at me while Sasha was laughing at a joke I'd made, one that wasn't even funny. I'd said something about my boss being so uptight that if you stuck a lump of coal up his ass, you'd get a diamond in 2 weeks. Sasha laughed like I was Dave Chappelle on his best night. Leah just studied me, like I was a particularly interesting specimen in a petri dish labeled Predictable Men Genus Damascus. More wine, Kevy? Sasha purred, already refilling my glass before I could answer. Her fingers brushed mine in a way that could have been accidental if she hadn't done it 3 times already. Thanks, I said, pretending I didn't notice the touch or the way her dress had somehow migrated another inch up her thigh since she sat down. Kevin makes the best pasta in the world, Leah announced suddenly, as if recommending a restaurant to a tourist. He does this thing with the garlic where I'd love to taste it sometime, Sasha interrupted, looking not at Leah, but at me. When Leah's away for work, next week, maybe? I nearly choked on my wine. This wasn't subtle. This was about as subtle as a foghorn in a library. I'm sure Kevin would be happy to cook for you, Leah said, swirling her wine with the detached amusement of someone watching 2 chess pieces move exactly where she'd predicted. That night, after Sasha left, Leah sat on the edge of the bed and said, "You think she's pretty?" I shrugged with all the fake nonchalance of a man trying to defuse a nuclear bomb with his eyes closed. "She's all right," she laughed. Not a chuckle, not a giggle, but a full-throated laugh that said, "I can read your thoughts, and they're written in big, bold, horny font. You know I'd let you fuck her, right?" I thought she was drunk, or having a stroke, or both. "What?" I managed, my voice cracking like I was 13 and asking Becky Stevens to the middle school dance all over again. But she said it again, this time sober, her eyes clear as vodka and twice as potent. "She's wanted you since our wedding day. I saw her checking out your ass during our first dance. I see how she looks at you. You should do it." I kissed Leah and whispered, "What happens if I say yes?" She smiled the smile of a woman who's already won a game you don't even know you're playing. "Then I'll know exactly who I married." 3 nights later, Leah left town for a conference. The air quotes here are doing Olympic-level gymnastics, because this conference seemed about as real as my chances of ever making sensible life choices. Sasha showed up unannounced, not even a courtesy text, just a knock that was less of a request for entry and more of a warning that entry was happening regardless of my answer. She stood there in a black hoodie and no bra, a fact she made immediately apparent by stretching her arms above her head the moment she stepped inside, causing the hoodie to ride up and my brain cells to shut down. "Leah's not here," I said, like the brilliant conversationalist I am. "I know," Sasha replied, walking past me. She didn't even ask if Leah was home. She walked straight into my kitchen like she owned it, like she'd bought it, paid the mortgage, and was considering a tasteful renovation of the cabinets. She made a sandwich, opened a beer, My beer. The craft IPA I save for weekends. This tastes like tree bark and pretentiousness, she said, taking another swig. It's a double-hopped Imperial. I know what Leah told you, she interrupted, setting the beer down with the authority of someone slamming a gavel. I stayed silent, suddenly very interested in a speck of dust on my hardwood floor. She looked at me, her eyes traveling from my face to my chest to points south, then back up with the thoroughness of a TSA agent who's found something suspicious in your carry-on. She told me you'd cave, said you'd try to act conflicted but give in the second I touched you, said you'd probably make that little groan you make when you're trying not to make noise. I felt my face heat up. Leah and her had discussed this, discussed me, probably over brunch or pedicures or whatever sister activities involve detailing your husband's sexual tendencies. I don't make a groan, I protested weakly. We'll see, Sasha said, and then she kissed me. Not a tentative kiss, not a questioning kiss. The kind of kiss that answers questions you haven't even thought to ask yet. She pulled back and said, "This isn't just about sex, Kev. This is about exposure." Exposure to what? I asked, already knowing I wouldn't like the answer. To who you really are when given the chance to be someone else. That's when the last functioning part of my brain caught fire and died. We had sex, on the couch, on the stairs, against the refrigerator, knocking off the collection of quirky magnets Leah's mom sends from every tourist trap she visits. A plastic Golden Gate Bridge bounced off my head mid-thrust, and neither of us stopped to pick it up. I wasn't thinking. Or maybe I was. Maybe I was thinking, this is what it feels like to be the chaos instead of just surviving it. When Leah got back, she didn't ask if anything happened. She didn't have to. I had the guilty, slightly too relaxed look of a man who'd just had more sex in 48 hours than in the previous 3 months combined. She just kissed me softly and said, "So, how was she?" Like we were talking about a restaurant. "Oh, you tried that new Thai place? How was it? Spicy enough?" "I don't know what you mean," I said, the lie sounding hollow even to my own ears. "Kevin," Leah said, setting down her suitcase, "your shirt is on inside out. There's a hickey below your ear that looks like you were attacked by a vacuum cleaner, and you're walking like someone who's discovered muscles they forgot existed. So I'll ask again, how was she?" I collapsed onto the couch. "Why are you doing this?" "Because some women collect china, some collect shoes. I collect information," she said, sitting beside me. "Specifically, information about what makes people tick, what makes them break, what makes them transparent." From that night on, there were no lies, no sneaking around. The sneaking was replaced with a carefully orchestrated dance of comings and goings that would make an air traffic controller dizzy. Sasha came over. Leah stayed in the room sometimes. Sometimes she left. Sometimes she watched. Not in a sexual way, in a power way, like she was conducting a social experiment, and I was the lab rat pressing the pleasure button instead of the food button until I starved to death with a smile on my face. One night after sex, Sasha said, "You know she only lets me have you because she knows I can't keep you." I asked what that meant, propping myself up on an elbow. She just smiled and said, "She knows I ruin things. I always do. It's my superpower. Like some people can roll their tongues or touch their nose with their tongue, I can take a perfectly good situation and turn it into a dumpster fire before you can say, 'Therapy copay.'" "That's not a great superpower," I pointed out. "Neither is being so predictable that your wife can orchestrate your affair like it's a corporate team-building exercise. Yet here we are," she shot back. Weeks passed. Sasha got clingy, started texting me every hour, asking where I was, what I was doing, who I was with. If I didn't respond within 5 minutes, she'd send a series of increasingly frantic messages, culminating in either accusations or apologies, with no middle ground. "Sorry, I was in a meeting," I'd text back. "With who? That new marketing girl with the yoga pants and the laugh that sounds like she's auditioning for a phone sex line?" I didn't even know who she was talking about. Our marketing department had 17 people, and I couldn't pick most of them out of a lineup. Leah noticed. Of course she did. Leah noticed everything with the precision of a sniper and the patience of a spider. "She's catching feelings," she said one morning over breakfast, buttering her toast like she was discussing the weather. "That was never the plan." I set down my coffee. "What was the plan?" Leah looked at me, her eyes clear and cold. "To give her what she wants, so she'll show who she really is." "And who is she?" "A grenade with the pin half pulled. She's been trying to destroy me since we were kids. I just finally gave her the knife." "So I'm what? The knife?" I asked. feeling slightly offended at being reduced to a metaphorical weapon. "No, Kevin," Leah said with exaggerated patience. "You're the handle she thinks she's gripping while cutting herself on the blade." Sasha showed up one night, drunk. Not fun drunk. Nuclear meltdown drunk. The kind of drunk where you can practically see the bad decisions forming in real time, like watching bacteria multiply in a petri dish. "Your wife," she slurred, poking me in the chest as she stumbled into the living room, "is a fucking mastermind." "Leah's not here," I said, checking my watch. "She's at her book club." "Book club!" Sasha laughed wildly. "Is that what she calls it? Creative. Very creative." "What are you talking about?" "Leah's manipulating both of us," she said, collapsing onto the couch. "She's playing 4D chess while we're playing. I don't know, hungry hippos or some shit." "You're drunk," I said, going to the kitchen to get her water. "And you're stupid," she called after me. "But tomorrow, I'll be sober, and you'll still be stupid." I returned with the water. "That's not how that quote goes." Fuck your quotes," she said, but took the water anyway. "Leah only gave you permission so she could say, 'I told you so.' She's been planning this for months." "Planning what?" I asked, genuinely confused. "This." She gestured wildly between us, spilling water on the couch. "This whole thing. You think this is an open marriage? Nah, it's a slow burn revenge plot." I didn't believe her. Why would I? She was drunk, jealous, and had already admitted to having the superpower of ruination. Until she pulled out her phone, showed me messages from Leah, long ones, dating back before Leah brought Sasha into the picture. All about how she planned to test Kevin's loyalty. "Let him think it's his idea," one message read. "Men always need to believe they're the architects of their own destruction." She knew I'd cheat before I ever did it, had mapped it out like an invasion plan, complete with contingencies and fallback positions. And Sasha, she was in on it, until she wasn't, until the experiment became real for her. "I was supposed to be the temptation," Sasha said, suddenly sober-sounding. "The obstacle, the test. I wasn't supposed to fall in love with you, you idiot." "You're in love with me?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "But you know everything I do with you," I tell Leah. "That was supposed to be the point, to prove you couldn't be trusted. But then," she looked down at her hands, "then I started wishing you wouldn't tell her, that some things could just be ours." I stared at her, seeing her clearly for the first time, not as Leah's sister, not as the other woman, but as someone who'd walked into a trap and found herself caught in it instead. "I have to talk to Leah," I said. I confronted Leah that night when she got home, smelling faintly of wine and carrying a book I knew she hadn't read. "How was book club?" I asked, my voice carefully neutral. "Enlightening," she said, setting down her purse. "We're reading that new thriller about the woman who discovers her husband is sleeping with her sister. Very timely." "Funny," I said, not laughing. "Sasha was here." Something flickered across Leah's face. Not surprise, not anger, but recalculation. I could almost hear the gears turning as she adjusted her approach. "Oh, how is my dear sister?" "Drunk, upset, in love with me, apparently." Leah snorted. "Sasha falls in love like most people change underwear, frequently and with questionable hygiene." She showed me the texts, Leah. A beat of silence. Leah set down the book she was holding. "Which texts?" she asked, her voice carefully modulated. "The ones where you laid out this whole plan, where you talked about testing me, where you orchestrated this entire fucked up situation." Leah didn't deny it, didn't even try. She just sat down in the armchair across from me, crossed her legs, and looked at me with something like respect. "You passed the test, just not the one you thought." I asked what that meant, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. "I needed to know what kind of man you were with options. If you'd lie about it, if you'd get attached, if you'd leave." "And?" She smiled almost sadly. "You're not loyal, but you're predictable. And I can work with predictable." "So this was all some fucked up loyalty test? That's insane, Leah." "No, Kevin. A loyalty test would be wondering if you'd cheat. I knew you would. This was a character test. I wanted to see how you'd handle it." "And how did I do?" I asked bitterly. "You did exactly as expected. You cheated, but you told me everything. You enjoyed it, but you still came home. You're like a dog that knows it shouldn't be on the couch but does it anyway, then looks guilty when caught. It's not ideal, but it's manageable." I should have left. Packed a bag, called a lawyer, started over. But I didn't. Instead, I flipped the game. I called Sasha the next day. "We need to talk," I said when she answered, sounding hungover and miserable. "About how I made a fool of myself?" she asked. "No thanks. I've replayed that enough times in my head to last several lifetimes of embarrassment. About us, I said. About getting away from Leah. Silence on the other end. What do you mean? She finally asked. I mean, what if we left? Just disappeared for a while. Figured things out. More silence. Then, are you serious? Dead serious, I lied. I love you, Sasha. This thing with Leah, it's toxic. She's been manipulating both of us. We could start over. She cried, said she loved me too, that she'd been waiting to hear those words. Then told Leah, just like I knew she would. The thing about loyalty is that it's rarely absolute. It's conditional, situational, a fluctuating currency that changes value depending on the market of emotions on any given day. I played both of them, pretended to want both. Told Sasha I was done with Leah. Told Leah I was setting Sasha up, exposing her true nature. Truth? I didn't know what I wanted. I just wanted control again. To be the chess player instead of the pawn. To be the one moving pieces around the board for once. Your sister thinks we're running away together, I told Leah casually over dinner one night. Leah paused, her fork halfway to her mouth. Interesting strategy. I learned from the best, I said, raising my wine glass in mock toast. And what happens when she realizes you're not actually leaving me? I shrugged. Probably the same thing that happened when I realized you two had been planning this little experiment for months. Disappointment, betrayal, the usual. Careful, Kevin, Leah said, her voice soft but sharp. You're playing a game you don't fully understand. I'm a quick study, I replied. Besides, isn't this what you wanted? To see what I do? Well, this is what I'm doing. She studied me for a long moment, then smiled. A real smile this time, one that reached her eyes. Maybe I underestimated you after all. 1 week later, they both showed up at the house at the same time. Not by accident. Nothing in this story happens by accident. Sasha arrived first, suitcase in hand, ready for our escape. I didn't bring much, she said breathlessly. Just essentials. We can buy whatever else we need when wherever we're going. About that, I started, but the front door opened. Leah walked in, took one look at the suitcase, and raised an eyebrow. I thought it was over. World War III. Nuclear winter in our living room. Sasha started yelling, her face contorted with rage and betrayal. You told her? You told her? He didn't have to, Leah said calmly, setting down her purse. You did. The moment you texted me asking if I had Kevin's passport because you needed it for a surprise. You bitch, Sasha spat. You've always done this, always ruined everything for me. Me? Leah laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. I gave you exactly what you wanted. Access to my husband, no strings, no guilt, and you still couldn't help but try to take more. Because it wasn't real, Sasha shouted. It was just another one of your tests, like when we were kids and you'd offer me your toys just to see if I'd take them. You were never supposed to fall in love with him, Sasha, Leah said, her voice suddenly gentle. This was about closure, not conquest. And Sasha, she lost it. Grabbed a half-empty wine bottle from the counter and threw it at the wall, where it shattered in a spectacular explosion of glass and Cabernet. Now that, I said, staring at the red liquid dripping down our white wall, is definitely coming out of someone's security deposit. Neither of them laughed. You always win, Sasha said, tears streaming down her face. You always win. Leah looked at her sister and said with a mixture of pity and pride, That's because I don't pretend to be the victim when I'm the villain. And what am I in this story? I asked, genuinely curious. They both turned to look at me, as if suddenly remembering I was there. You're the prize, Sasha said bitterly. You're the catalyst, Leah corrected. I feel more like the collateral damage, I muttered. Sasha moved out of town. Last I heard, she was dating a psychiatrist in Seattle. Poor bastard probably thinks he's hit the jackpot. Beautiful woman with exciting stories and just enough emotional damage to make him feel needed. He'll learn. Leah and I stayed together. We don't talk about what happened, not directly, but sometimes we laugh about it. Like, remember when you offered me your sister and she tried to steal me? Leah will roll her eyes and say, she was never going to win. I taught you better than that. One night, after too much wine and a rare moment of vulnerability, I asked her, did you ever worry I'd actually leave with her? Leah looked at me, her eyes clear and honest for once. For about 5 seconds. Then I remembered who you are. And who am I? A man who likes to dip his toes in chaos but is terrified of drowning in it. We're in therapy now. Not because we're broken, because we're aware. We know who we are. We're not perfect. We're poisonous. But we drink the same poison. And that's love, baby. Our therapist, Dr. Katz, a balding man with perpetually fogged glasses and the patience of a saint, often looks at us like we're a particularly challenging crossword puzzle. "Let me get this straight," he said during our third session. "You orchestrated an affair between your husband and your sister as a personality test?" "More of a compatibility confirmation," Leah corrected. "And you," he turned to me, "went along with it, then tried to turn it around on both of them?" "I prefer to think of it as reclaiming my agency," I said, using terms I'd picked up from our first two sessions. Dr. Katz pinched the bridge of his nose. "In 20 years of practice, I've never... Actually, no, I've seen worse. But you two are definitely in my top 5 most creative forms of relationship dysfunction." "We'll take it," Leah said, squeezing my hand. "So yeah, I'm still having sex with my wife. Just my wife. My wife's okay with it. More than okay. She's thriving. Sometimes at parties, people ask how we keep the spark alive after 7 years of marriage." Leah smiles her mysterious smile and says, "Clear communication and firm boundaries." I nearly choke on my drink every time. Because in this house, love isn't pure. It's strategic. It's calculated, measured, administered in precise doses like medicine or poison. Depends on who's drinking it. Depends on the day. But we always know exactly what we're swallowing. And somehow, that makes it sweeter going down. If you like this story, stay tuned for more chaos.